Well, hello and welcome to another episode of Lifeline for Daily Living. Yes, this is the place where you can find the answers to your mental health, relationship, and family questions. I'm your host, Jim Hewitt. Glad you've tuned in today. I think you're going to find today's topic very interesting, so I hope you'll stay tuned because we'll be right back. All right. Hey, welcome back to another episode of Lifeline for Daily Living. Glad that you've joined me again today. Today I want to start a three-part series on the subject parenting from the heart. I think one of the hardest tasks that you and I are called to accomplish is that of being a parent. And in a day when there's so much going on in our world today, so much going on in our culture today, I think this whole issue of parenting becomes even that much more important. And I want to talk to you about how to be, in this three-part series, how to be an effective parent. Parenting from the heart. It's not just a job, right? You're investing in someone's life. Parenting really, when you think about it, parenting really is a gift from God. That little child that you and your father, the father or the mother conceived, that's a gift from God. Life is a precious gift from God. Parenting, I've often thought of it in terms of gardening. You plant the seed and then you cultivate it and you nurture it and you water it and you make sure the weeds don't, take it over. You take care of that plant, whatever the plant is. My wife likes to, have flower garden and man, she fertilizes it and takes care of it and waters it. And then from that comes this beautiful plant. So parenting is like gardening. It's also this whole thing of trust. Parenting is trust. Being trusted and being entrusted with a life. That person that you call your child, that boy that you call your son, that girl that you call your daughter, you're entrusted with that life. The biggest responsibility I think that you and I have is to live that trust throughout our entire life. That no matter what, our child should be able to trust us impeccably. And again, in a culture where families are breaking apart and families are fractured and fragmented and pressures are being brought to bear on the family. Trust is such a vital aspect of parenting. But I think parenting is also a labor of love. When you take on the role of parenting, there's things that you have to give up. Sleepless nights, career sacrifices, postponing so many things that you would like to do in order to raise that child. But see, the price comes in the outcome. Raising that child to be a useful, productive, healthy adult in their adult life, and then producing grandchildren for you. Someone once told me a long time ago that you really don't know how good of a parent you are until you become a grandparent. Then you see the parenting skills that are being, kind of brought to bear with your child as they parent their child. And I think parenting is also enjoying. It's smiling together, it's singing songs together, it's playing games together. Those enjoyable moments of life. I know one of the things that my wife and I talk about a lot is those days back when our two sons were smaller and we would take camping trips out west, out to the mountains, and what a special time that was for the entire family, being out there in nature and doing those kind of things. And you know, we were talking with our sons not long ago, and they both remember those times of going camping out there, and those are memories, see, that they will have for the rest of their lives, and they will pass on to their children. So I want to talk to you today and for the next couple of weeks about how to be an effective parent, parenting from the heart. And I think a good place to start here would be to talk about some myths and realities regarding parenting. Now, there's hundreds of myths out there. I'm going to only list 4, just in the to conserve time here. 4 primary myths, and then the realities that go along to counter that myth. Myth number 1 is that all parenting skills are instinctive. I mean, you have a baby, and boom, you should know exactly what to do, when to do it, how to do it. And you have all the answers, no matter, and as they grow up, you will have all the answers, you'll have all the things. It's just instinctive. That's just simply not true. No one is born with all the preparation that's needed to be an effective parent. No one is. All of us learn. I mean, no one is given a manual when that child is born. Now, I know that there's a lot of books, but that child is unique, in and of themselves. And so there's no manual directly for that child. Many parenting skills are learned and learned through knowledge and experience. Talking to current parents, talking to maybe even grandparents about their children who are adults, gaining all kinds of knowledge, listening to and watching podcasts like the one that you're watching now is a way to gain knowledge and insight and experience. It's just basically it's trial and error. There's no one that knows everything there is to know about parenting. So you gain it through knowledge and experience. Myth number 2: a parent can always be a mature adult can always be a perfect parent. Come on, you're a mature adult. You should be a perfect parent. You should be on time, in time, all the time. You should be, the perfect, school sponsor. You should be involved in the PTA or the PTO, whatever your school calls it. You should be, perfect discipline, perfect. There is no such thing as a perfect parent. If you're trying to be a perfect parent, give it up, because your parents were not perfect. That means there is no perfect human being. There's no perfect parent. And so humans, think about it, you and I, just as humans, we're not perfect. And so no one can be a perfect parent. You're putting too much pressure on yourself to be this perfect, all end all and be all kind of parent. Mature adults should strive to become competent parents, but not perfect parents. You don't want to be neglectful of your children. You want to be, you want to know how to keep your child safe. You want to know, how to provide a good, solid education for your child. You want to do those things. I'm not talking about that. You should strive to be a competent parent, but give up the idea of being a perfect parent. Myth number 3. Good parenting, here's the myth. Good parenting guarantees good children. Good parenting guarantees good children. The fact is that as your child grows up, particularly when they get to be school age, they have more outside influences than they do internal influences. They're influenced more by their environment now. Once they begin school, whether they're going to kindergarten or first grade, whatever, they're now exposed to different ideas, different backgrounds of people, all of that, different influences. And so influences outside of families, such as peers, adults other than parents, even the media. We live in a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week cycle of media now. Facebook, Snapchat, Skype, all of these kinds of things now. YouTube is another. All of these kinds of things influence our children. Now, it's up to you and I to bring balance to that. But good parenting never guarantees, I want to underscore that word, never guarantees a good child. You have to do what you have to do and instill values and morals and the difference between right and wrong the best you can with your children. Myth number 4, and that is parenting is always fun. I have to chuckle at that one. Parenting is always fun. No, it's not. You want to have fun, just like any other job. Think about the job that you have. It's, you have your good days, your bad days. You have rewarding weeks. You have awful weeks. Sometimes you get along with your boss. Sometimes you don't. Those kind of things. Good parenting is not always fun, nor should it be. You should not, listen to me close now, you should not be striving to be a buddy or a good friend to your child. No, you're their parent. And there's going to be times, and we're going to talk about this, there's going to be times when you're going to need to discipline. Well, a friend, how does a friend discipline another friend? You don't. And so parenting is not always fun. It has its challenges. And certainly you can enjoy your children and have fun with them, but adults should have, I think, realistic expectations of what parenting is all about. And the fact is that these 4 myths ought to be addressed. All parenting all parenting skills are instinctive is one myth. A mature adult can be a perfect parent is number 2. Good parenting guarantees good children is number 3, and number 4, parenting is always fun. I think you need to look at those in terms of your own parenting and how you view your parenting and see how that matches up and see what the realities are. Now, I want to talk real quick about some styles and outcomes of parenting. How should we approach this whole thing of parenting? Well, there's 3 primary ways that we do that. Number 1 is through the authoritarian way of parenting. Now, the authoritarian way of parenting, it sets limits without any freedom. Limits without any freedom. These are parents who are extremely strict and very often come across as cold. They communicate through lectures, yelling, punishment, and one-sided discussions, and the finger is always pointing and the hammer is always coming down. You see that? You do what I tell you to do, period. And there's rules and there's regulations, and you follow those to the T. Okay? That's the authoritarian way. And now what happens is that if that's the kind of parenting style that you choose, you're going to have an obedient child, but a distrustful child. There's not going to be any expression of freedom, as they grow older. They're going to tend to be more withdrawn, unhappy, hostile, and tend to be overall not very high achievers. Because, see, they've got this narrow lane that they've got to travel, and if they get outside the lane just a little bit, whammo, the hammer comes down, and it's punishment rather than discipline. And so that's the authoritarian, limits without freedom. The second one is really just the direct opposite of that, and that is permissiveness. The permissive parent is freedom without any limits. See, the authoritarian is limits without freedom. This is freedom without any limits. The outcome here is that the child tends to be more aggressive. They are the least self-reliant as they grow older, least self-controlled, least exploratory, and they are the most unhappy. See, because you just kind of get to go and come as you please, and typically these are the parents who they're so busy doing their own thing, whatever their own thing might be, that they're it's like whatever. Okay, okay, just do whatever, just don't bother me. This is freedom without any limits. Now, what we want to do is kind of come to the middle here. So over here you have authoritarian, over here you have permissive. In the middle here is where you have more of a democratic approach to parenting. Then the democratic approach to parenting is freedom within limits. Freedom within limits. This is where, I often liken it when I'm talking to parents about these kind of things. I often liken it to playing football. In football, you have this big field that you can play in, and then there's boundaries all around the field. And if you step foot outside the boundary, play stops. Well, that's the same thing here. Now, I have to be age appropriate, right, with the freedoms that I allow. Freedom within limits. So I'm not going to allow my 8-year-old child to stay up till 3 in the morning. That's that permissiveness thing. I'm not going to allow my child to stay on electronics, whenever they want and run up a $500 phone bill because they're playing games on the phone. I'm not going to do that. It's freedom within limits. And when I have freedom within limits, and everybody in the household understands those limits, then see, the outcome is that my child is more happy, they're more self-reliant, they're more self-controlled, they're more content, friendly, generous, cooperative, and they tend to be high achievers. See, it's now again, I want to emphasize it's age-appropriate freedom. As the child grows up and gets into middle school, yeah, you know what? You can stay up just a little bit later. You don't have to go to bed at 7 o'clock. You can go to bed at 9 o'clock. As they get into high school, it's a little later, and so on and so forth. See, you're teaching them how to be self-reliant. I often tell parents when I'm dealing with children's issues that you're not training an 8-year-old, you're training a 28-year-old. I want you to hear that. You're not training an 8-year-old. You're training them to be a 28-year-old. And the way you do that is not through authoritarian, where they've got and they're scared to make any kind of decision on their own. On the other extreme, you don't allow them to just do whatever they want, because do you get to do whatever you want to? I don't. Do you? No. So the democratic way is freedom within limits. That you can do these things within that are age appropriate, and then but there are limits to what you can do. Now, let me just run through about 4 or 5 tips and techniques to communicate with your kids, to get kind of the good stuff out of them. Okay, number 1, be there on their terms. Be there on their terms. Be ready to listen even when you don't feel like listening. Because if you don't listen and they're wanting to talk and you don't listen, there's going to come a time when you want them to talk and they're not going to talk because you've never listened. See that? So when they're ready to talk, you better be ready to listen. Listen without lecturing. Drop everything you're doing, not distracted by your phone, not distracted by your TV, but drop everything you're doing and focus on them. Be there on their terms, not when, hey Dad, hey Mom, can I talk to you for a minute? Just a minute. Yeah, just a minute. Well, talk to me later. I'm really busy now. You know what? There's going to come a time in which they're not going to. You're going to want to talk to them, and they're not going to want to talk. Number 2, drop judgment and model respect. Drop judgment and model respect. Have high expectations and respect for your kids. Expect that in return, that they should have high expectation and respect for you as well. Don't hover over them. Some people call that a helicopter parent. Don't hover over them to control them, but be there when they fall, and they will fall. Be there to help pick up the pieces and put it back together and send them on their way again. Drop judgment. Well, that was really stupid. See, I could have told you that was going to go wrong, or why didn't you listen to me? No, see, that's the authoritarian type. drop judgment and model respect. They're going to do things that you in your mind know, and because of your experience, you know that you know it's going to foul up. You know that it is. Well, they need to learn by failure. We live in a culture where we just don't want our kids facing failure, and I think that's a drastic mistake that we make, because we're creating a generation that is full of expectations and entitlements, and they don't learn from the failures. They think that from the day they graduate from high school, they should walk into a $40,000 a year job. No. Drop judgment and model respect. Number 3, be where the action is and listen to them when they're not talking to you. Sometimes you can pick up a lot just by listening to them. Consider making a priority to be the driver to your kids' sports events, and just drive and listen to them talk back there. You'll learn some things. Maybe some things you don't want to learn, but you'll learn how they're interacting with others, and then that becomes an opportunity for you to discuss those things with your child later on. Be where the action is, and listen to them when they're not talking directly to you. Number 4. Open your ears and very bluntly shut your mouth. Open your ears and shut your mouth. Many times, and this goes back to the authoritarian way of parenting, many times we're just doing all the talking, and we're finger pointing, and we're lecturing, and you should do this and you should do that. No, listen. Learn how to keep your mouth shut and listen to them and be in conversation with them. Kids need to talk. They want to talk. You need to listen, and sometimes you just have to hold on and wait, and things do get better. You know what? I can guide them, and that's where, the older they get, that's where you become more of a guide to them, that you're guiding them in this direction. There's a scriptural principle here that says, train up a child in the way he should go. Train up a child in the way he should go. This training doesn't start when they're 16, folks. It just doesn't. It doesn't start when they're 12. It starts when they're 2. It starts when they're 1. Learning those boundaries, learning the things that they need to learn. Open your ears, listen to them, and keep your mouth shut. Stop lecturing, listen to them, and then give them feedback. And finally, number 5, and that is, make it a positive experience for them. When you're sitting down and talking to your kids about stuff, make it a positive experience where they feel like they have been listened to. Let me ask you, how do you feel when you're talking to someone and you're feeling, you're talking about something that's very important to you, and you're trying to figure things out, and they're not listening to you? They're just not. All they're doing is they're doing all the talking and telling you how this is wrong and how that's wrong and how this is a mistake and that's a mistake. Be positive, because if they come away from this talk with a positive experience, they're more likely to come back to you and to share with you. Now, they're not going to share every little detail, but on the important things, the things that they struggle with, they'll come back to you, and they'll seek your advice and seek your input. Now, let me just summarize here with something that I ran across. This has been some time ago, and it's simply called the parenting promise. And I don't know who wrote it. It was anonymous, but I ran across this some time ago, and I think it was so good that I want to share it with you. And here's what it says. I promise I will show my children I love them. I will listen and value what they say, what my children say. I will praise my child's efforts towards accomplishment. I will respect my children as individuals. And I will enjoy with my children every day. I love that. it just kind of encapsulates all this thing that we call parenting and what it should be. Letting them know that you love them, letting them know that you value and you will listen to them, letting them know that you're proud of them and you're their cheerleader and you're cheerleading them on to bigger accomplishments, and letting them know that you see them as individuals, and also enjoying every single day with them. Now, parenting has its ups and downs like anything else, but enjoying every single day. And I think if you'll begin to do these things and look at parenting a little bit different maybe than what you had before, I think you're going to find that your stress level, as far as being a parent, your stress level is going to come down, and your children are going to respond to you in a much better way. This is parenting from the heart. This is what I mean by that. Parenting from the heart is involving yourself in your child's lives, in their frustrations, in their ups and their downs, and all the stuff that goes on with life as they're growing up. All the tensions, all the stresses, all the tears, all the laughter that goes with growing up, that you are deeply involved with them. It's a partnership. They're a gift of God to you. Don't forget that. They're a gift of God to you. And so next week now and the week after, I'm gonna talk a little bit more about this whole thing of parenting from the heart. I hope you'll tune in next Monday and the Monday following as we do this 3-part series on parenting from the heart. Well, I want to thank you for tuning in to this episode of Lifeline for Daily Living. If some of what I have said today has spurred some questions or concerns, there's 3 ways that you can contact me. You can contact me by phone. My phone number is 573-732-4575. Again, 573-732-4575. Or you can email me. My email address is lifelineonline@hotmail.com. Again, that's lifelineonline@hotmail.com. Or if you're watching this by Facebook, you can private message me. Just give me all your contact information, and I promise I'll get back in touch with you. We'll talk over the phone or through private messaging, however you want to do it. I want to talk to you about parenting from the heart. So thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you right here next week on Lifeline for Daily Living.